Left jab, uppercut, leave you laid out on the floor. Try to duck and roll, hit and miss, now you counting stars. Should've practiced more, should've hit the mask, get out there more. Claim that you're the best. You gotta show me, son. Actions over words, baby boy. Is you real or what? Talking way too much, world come. Back sports, talking way too much, world come. Back sports, talking way too much, world come. Back sports,
Hello everyone, this is Scotty White of World Combat Sports. If you don't know, now you know. Anthony Rumble Johnson in the house of Bare Knuckle Fighting Championships. How you doing, sir?
I'm blessed, man. You?
All right. You are a part of the Bare Knuckle Fighting right now. Assess the main event on how it's all going to go down.
It's crazy. It's crazy. There's so much tension in the air between those two men. It should be, you know?
You being prior mixed martial arts, okay, still in the game, but probably coming over from the boxing background. So who do you see having an advantage in the early rounds, man, and getting this victory?
Honestly, I see Artem having just overall more winning spirit. He's more of a grinder, in my opinion. You know, mixed martial arts and boxing, of course, you know, they're both combat sports, but I just think mixed martial arts is a different breed. We got to deal with more than just punches. We got to deal with takedowns, elbows, kicks, knees, the whole nine, you know what I'm saying? So it's a little bit of a different breed, but, you know, you got to respect both at the end of the day.
And neither fighter have one-punch knockout power like yourself, so that's not an equalizer in there. Are we looking to see Anthony Rumble Johnson in the square circle anytime soon?
You know what? You just never know. You never know. I'm going to leave it at that.
All right.
Leave it at that.
All right. Last, I heard you mention that your only fight to come back to the UFC will be John Jones. Can we potentially see that on the horizon?
You never know. You never know.
All right.
You know, if the price was right, you know, it'll happen. I'm 35 now, man, so I'm doing things that I want to do in life besides fighting and other dreams. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Making my dreams a reality now, without all the punches and stuff like that. You know, I like being in business, being in the business world, entrepreneurship and stuff like that. So we'll see. It takes a lot for me to stop doing that to get back to combat sports.
Well, I'm gonna tell you like this, Rumble. Hopefully, you're not absolutely done. You know, you have DC that's departing sometime in 2020. I mean, you'll fit right back in there into the shakeup. So I want to commend you for being in there with some of the best fighters, man.
I mean, yeah, man, it's different for me now. You know, I see these guys, and nothing against the newer generation, but you know, you look at light heavyweight. I mean, I see a lot of these guys getting knocked out, and I'm like, yo, if it was me, Alexander, whenever he was like really in his prime, and John, and you know, in DC, and Glover was all right, I'm like, you wouldn't have heard of these other guys, you know what I mean? And these guys are knocking each other out left and right, and I'm almost like the competition isn't as stiff as it was at one point. All you need is 3 or 4 tough guys, and the division is in limbo. It's in the mix. You just don't know who's going to do what. But now it's like, all right, well, this guy's going to end up hurting this guy and knocking him out. It's pretty easy to tell now who's going to win.
Yeah.
Just because to me the competition isn't near as heavy and thick, you know what I'm saying?
That's true.
In heavyweight and the light heavyweight division. But they do have some athletes, but I think they're just missing, you know, a little bit of an extra step.
Yes. And last word, any final words for the fight fans, Bare Knuckle fight fans are going to be tuned in for this weekend?
Oh, man, y'all make sure you tune in this Saturday, man. Bare Knuckle's going to give you guys what you want, what you deserve. Artem and Paulie, they obviously hate each other.
Yeah.
So just beware, and there's going to be a whole bunch of blood everywhere.
All right, thank you there, champ.
Big shout out to everyone in the building. WCS back on the boulevard. Salute to the supporters as always, man. You already know what's good. What is up with everybody? As you have heard, man, unfortunately, prayers go out to the family and loved ones and teams and everything, man. You know, I try to tell people, man, you never know who you're going to run into, and, you know, the people that you watch on the screen, like Rumble Johnson. I used to watch this cat at 170, bro. I used to watch him at 170 pounds, and then he would move up, and he was up there fighting the heavyweights, like the big dogs, the light heavyweights, rather. And it's unfortunate that the news is broke that he was battling some type of, illness or what have you. They're not going to really put it out there to the audience and everything on what really it was. We don't know if it was cancer. We don't know if it was whatever, man. But that's unfortunate news, man. And I just think back at it when I heard it. I was like, man, I felt some type of way because, you know, he was pretty cool. The conversations we was able to have down in Florida at the bare knuckle fighting, I was able to not only talk to him at the tryouts of bare knuckle, but I was able to talk to him at the presser and kind of get an idea of what his direction was. Would he ever return back to the cage? And the only person he said he wanted to return to the cage was John Jones. And Anthony is not a small dude. You know what I'm saying? He wasn't in fight shape, but he was outgoing, and, you know, he had expectations of himself and everything. And that's just unfortunate news, man. This comeback game, you never know what these guys are battling from. Yeah, hold on. Yeah, that's unfortunate. He said from MMAJunkie.com, they say without getting too much into his medical condition, he got too worried just about being healthy first, Coker said. He got to heal up and get healthy because there's so much in life than just fighting. I want him to have a long, healthy life, and that's the most important thing. During his time in the UFC, Rumble Johnson amassed a 13-5 record. All but 2 of those wins came by knockout. His list of notable victories include 13-second finish for former UFC champ Glover Teixeira. And we're talking about the Glover Teixeira that finally was able to win a championship at his age. You know what I'm saying? As well as wins over Alexander Gustafsson, Phil Davis, Andre Arlovsky, and Dan Hardy. We also can remember him as being that guy who stepped in there with Daniel Cormier twice. And Cormier, being a striker himself, wrestler, he was able to sub out Rumble Johnson, twice. The biggest part I always look at is when I had so much expectation. I was like, there's no way Rumble Johnson's gonna fight John Jones. Man, that's gonna be crazy. You know what I'm saying? Everybody was like talking across the MMA community, and then John Jones got suspended, for popping dirty. So that threw out Rumble opportunity to face John Jones, and that's when he went in there and faced Daniel Cormier. We don't know if that could have developed into a rivalry between these two, but I never seen this coming. I'm curious to know. I'm gonna make some phone calls to some people to see if they heard anything about what he actually had, man. What his health condition was. It CTE? Was it underlying health condition in general, like failing organs or something like that? I don't know. Cancer? I don't know, man. But shout out to the man himself. I wish he would have had the opportunity to become champion in the UFC. It pretty much would have solidified him. But like I tell a lot of boxing fans, right? I don't need to tell MMA fans. They know already. But like I tell a lot of boxing fans, in MMA, you can have multiple losses, or you can, you go through your career without winning the championship, and they still consider you a legend if you stepped in there with some of the big names. Rumble Johnson had that one hitter quitter. You know, he had the power, man. He was entertaining to watch, and he had his ups and his downs. When I saw him down there bare knuckle, I couldn't believe it. I was like, wow, I get to see Rumble Johnson. You know what I'm saying? One of my favorite hitters back in the day when he was competing. And he seems like he was enjoying himself. You know, Antonio Tarver was down there. It was a Paulie Malignaggi and Artem Lobov fight. And yeah, I covered bare knuckle fighting too. And thank God I was able to get an interview with the late Anthony Rumble Johnson. You know what I'm saying? Salute to him and his peoples. To the chat, man. Salute to everyone that's in the chat. Mr. Pass on deck, man. Ain't no on deck. He said, rest in peace. Mr. Johnson heard had some illness. He was battling for a while. Bless his soul. Seemed like a very nice guy. Yeah, he was cool, man. I be who I be. What's good? Yeah, he was extra cool, man. Thanks for all the entertaining fights. Smoke on deck. Salute to you, brother. Big Blunts and Boxing in the building. I gave a lesson on that 38 number. Captain Chaos on deck. What's good? WCS, the only thing we know is it wasn't COVID related because he said on Instagram, not COVID, months ago. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, they can say it's not COVID, but we don't know. It's according to how much information they want to put out there. You feel me? So we really don't know if it's COVID or not. But you know, I'm not going against the grain. I just want that man. You know, I don't know why people say peaceful. You know, when you pass, you pass. You know, you're up there. Unless you've been there, you don't know what's going on in the afterlife. So, all we know is that when you're past a living state, no one can really speak of you in the current as if what's going to be going on in your life, because they themselves haven't visited where you're at right now. So when you happen to pass, and then you have individuals saying, I know she's doing, I know he's doing, they really don't know. All you can say is your spirit's not going to be in pain. You know what I'm saying? No one can return back down here and say, you know, I met a lot of people that passed away and we were just having a conversation. It's not like that, but I know he's in a better place. Whatever he had, he don't have to be here in the physical form, in the mortal form, and be going through what he was going through. You feel me? So prayers, you know, to Anthony Johnson, dead at 38 years old, man. You know, I did have the opportunity to see him on a couple occasions, and good dude, very, very good dude. And big salute to you for all you did in mixed martial arts, brother. And I'm pretty sure the news is going to come out a little bit later on what he actually had going on in his life. I want to talk about what happened yesterday. And shout out to everyone in the chat. Do me a favor, man. Thanks for everybody. The channel is growing. It's subs, you know. It is what it is with the subs, man. You know, when you take your channel from the bottom to a point where people start knowing who you are, hey, it is what it is. They find you interesting in their own way. You know what I'm saying? No one can take credit for that. No group, no nothing. Just the dang supporters and subscribers who tune in to the channel. So the channel has been growing lately. So I would suggest y'all continue to hit the like button, pass the word, and you know, support me. Yesterday we had a crazy turnout when we're talking about what the results was. I was on record, real talk. I'm not gonna lie. I'm not a freaking. I don't have ESP. I don't sit up here and predict fights too heavy. I overthink them. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes I just kind of put into play the form of opposition these fighters had, how they look, and then how I believe it would go facing off against their current opponent. I didn't think either of these fights would end in stoppages. I just didn't see it, man. I just didn't see either of these fights ending in stoppages. Even though I was a little shaky on Esparza versus Zhang. But last night, UFC 281 went off, and did it go off? I'm talking about, let's just start with the Dustin Poirier and Michael Chandler. Michael Chandler surprised the hell out of me. Not the fact that he came out and he showed that he has that killer instinct, because he's had that before. But I was surprised he was able to do it on Dustin Poirier the way he did. The way he pressed the pace early, attacked, and landed the all-out assault that was effective. Like, the shit was effective on Dustin. I thought he was just going to take the punches and shit like that, you know, and he would come back, but he was really hurt. And I thought Dustin would be, you know, being he's true at that weight, 155er. Like, he's big for 155er. I thought he would just be a bit more short with the adjustments, you know, factoring in his experience, a little bit short. After he start taking the punches, then make adjustments and get down to it. But man, Michael Chandler overwhelmed him in the first round. I was like, jeez, man, this is crazy. I'm going for Dustin, and Dustin is showing that he can do everything to come up second. You feel me? Every time he's in a spot, he does everything to come up second, bro. In the second round, it was still some good exchanges between them. But like I said before, I wanted to know if the wrestling was going to play a significant role. And Michael Chandler ended up, you know, changing levels and going in for the takedown and so forth. And they kept on exchanging to the point where, you know, Dustin Poirier was at this point where if he continued to fail in big fights, you know, he's going to be considered the Donald Cerrone's. You know what I'm saying? The Nate Diaz. And he's going to be considered some of these names that was good enough to lose, so to speak. And even though the fight was entertaining, I was going for Dustin because I follow him more. I follow both fighters, but I follow him more. I like his fighting style. And like he said, if Michael Chandler wouldn't have had the looping punches and he would have lined them up real nice straight down the middle, he said he probably would have got me out of there. But I'm thinking, right? You know, Dustin Poirier being in the turtle position, Michael Chandler, you know, can be very top heavy as a wrestler. And he was landing those shots on Dustin where he landed a couple of shots to the back of the head, which pretty much Dan Miragliotta, I don't know what he was thinking, bro. He's an experienced ref. And at that point in time, those were illegal strikes to the back of the head. You know what I'm saying? Those illegal strikes to the back of the head. And it seems like Chandler told Miragliotta, it's like, that's to his ear. That's not the back of his head. But your eyes and your visual as the referee, the third man in the cage, rather, it overrules anything a fighter is saying. This was I saw. Be quiet and continue to fight. Or Miragliotta could have stood him up. See, if Dustin could have just grabbed the back of his head and started acting like, you know, really acting like he was in pain, that position would have been lost because the ref would have stopped the fight. They would have said it's from an illegal blow to the back of the head and would have gave him time to recover. But he didn't do that. He didn't do it. So as the fight went on, we saw these two fighters exchange, man. And like I said before, I was highly impressed with the way that Dustin Poirier bit down on his mouthpiece and finally start to switch up the momentum. I just didn't think, I don't know what was going on with that. It was a firefight, but I just didn't think that the fight would go to the ground. It went against everything that I thought. I thought somebody would get knocked the fuck out. And it almost happened. Dustin almost got stopped. I was close. Because both of these are stand-up type of guys, and they wrestling is pretty decent with the takedown. But nope. Michael Chandler was able to take Dustin down. Then Dustin, as the fight went on, Dustin started to kind of gauge his timing and start, working his takedown defense a little bit more on the ground. And for a minute, I was like, damn, Dustin, I know you're better than that on the ground. I know you are. When it got to a point where he was able to gain the back, gain dominant position on the back of Michael Chandler and lock in that choke for a minute, with all the blood and everything, people don't understand sweat and blood is like oil. It's so slippery. For a minute, it was on the chin. I was like, okay. But when he locked it in and cinched it, and it was so tight that Chandler couldn't hold his eyes open, like that was a tight choke, bro. Like he was really trying to see if there was a moment where he can hold it just a little bit, like they teach you in school. Just hold that moment for a little bit. Be patient, because something might happen. Look, either something where you can get up out of it, or you go to sleep. Two things happen. The third option is tapping. You know what I'm saying? It reminded me of Jim Miller, man. When Nate Diaz was choking out Jim Miller, he was able to lock in a front side guillotine, roll over, and to the point where Nate Diaz was on top. And he still held on to the guillotine. And Jim Miller's eyes was closed, and his tongue was stuck in between his teeth. He couldn't open his mouth because the choke was so tight. Now, if he wouldn't have tapped, he could have possibly did damage to his tongue, but he had to tap. But with Michael Chandler, it was a rear naked choke, and it was so tight, man. I was like, damn, Justin been working on this BJJ. That shit was in tight. And Chandler had no other option except to tap in the third round. You know what I'm saying? I was like, damn, that shit was good. That was a good fight right there. Unfortunately, it wasn't for a title shot. I mean, you know what I'm saying? It wasn't a championship fight. It was good between two elite fighters, but it wasn't for a title shot. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't with Islam Makhachev, But shout out to them cats, man. Shout out to everyone that's in the building. Let me try to get to these chats. I'm not trying to fall behind on these damn chats today. The Outlaw, what's good? What's good? Yeah, rest in peace, Rumble, man. Rest in peace, Rumble, no doubt. The only thing is okay, I read that. $11.5 from the gate, apparently. Hey, man, you know how the UFC do it over there, man. Come on, man. They don't have boxing problems, bro. I try to tell people they don't have boxing problems. Izzy needs to leave Alex alone. We're going to get into that. We're definitely going to get into that. So let's go to the co-main event, man. We had Carla Esparza, right? Carla Esparza, a female that I followed since the Ultimate Finale 20 final, where she did what she had to do against Rose Namajunas. She was a much more disciplined, well-rounded fighter at the time with her wrestling, and also with the boxing that she had. And Rose was just undeveloped. She was still in the embryonic stages of being a complete striker. So Carla Esparza beat her. As time went along, she would go on and face Joanna Jędrzejczyk, lose her title, like I told you. Jędrzejczyk could go on and lose her title to Thug Rose Namajunas in the first round, rematch her, lose again. Rose would go and fight Jessica Andrade and take a loss, being dumped on her head, knocked unconscious. And when that's the case, they call the fight. Then Jessica Andrade would go on to fight Zhang Weili, and with the absolute wrong game plan, she tried to go punch for punch, blow for blow, power for power. And Zhang Weili is a strong looking chick, man. Like, I'm not saying anything. She just look a little bit too strong for me. I don't know, bro. But anyway, she has been knocked out before, and it's not like she's unbeatable. She's beatable. So she would win the title from Jessica Andrade, right? And then lo and behold, you get Joanna Jacek goes in there and try to get a shot at the title again. She defeats her. She defends her title. And then she steps in there with Rose Namajunas again. That's what I love about the UFC. They give their top fighters opportunities to be in rotation, right? Rose Namajunas goes in there and high kicks her in the first round, knocks her out cold. They automatically give Zhang Weili a rematch from being knocked out in the first round because she was the champion, and she goes the distance and loses. So Rose becomes the first woman to lose her strawweight championship and win it back. All right. So then you got to look at it this way. Old foes meet again, just like Alex Pereira and Israel Adesanya. Rose Namajunas comes back in there and meet a person she hasn't fought like in 8 years, something like that. She faces Carla Esparza again, and the fight was boring. Something was crazy about that. I don't know what mind state Rose was in, but she didn't look good, and Carla Esparza become champ again. So in true fashion, just like the UFC, always putting on the best competition, they line her up again. Carla Esparza steps in there with who? A former champion. So now we have Rose Namajunas, 2-time women's strawweight champion, right? Then you had Carla Esparza, 2-time women's strawweight champion. Now Zhang Weili has the opportunity to step back in there and become 2-time women's strawweight champion, and she gets it done. She gets it done. Both fighters stood up at certain moments in the fight, but ultimately when it went to the ground, Weili, she showed that she was the much more better grappler. Carla Esparza attempted her takedowns. She has decent wrestling, but like I said before, Weili, man, she just seems so strong, very muscular, and she went into some places that I'm familiar with over there in Thailand. I seen them places when I used to frequent these places. Especially I had to go to Thailand to see the Muay Thai school. Like, it's so in depth. It would have been great just to spend like good 5 years. There's no way I could have did that because I was in the military. But when I seen her over in Thailand, I say I know they taking her through some conditions that she's not used to. It's regardless if she's Chinese or not. Over there, man, them schools are legit. You have Americans over there too. It's tough, man. They take you to a whole nother level. You'll see a lot of fighters pretty much go into somewhat of a seclusion, go over to Thailand and just try to increase their game, try to work on their Muay Thai, work on their overall condition, work on their toughness, and just try to go to a level of failure that they ain't been before. But anyway, she ended up locking in a crucifix on Carla Esparza. And Carla was doing well. She had a left hand because her right hand was secured by the legs of Zhang Weili. And she took her left hand and she was pretty much hand fighting, or you had wrist control. With that left hand on Zhang Weili's left hand, she was able to keep it stabilized for a minute. But ultimately around her neck was Zhang Weili's right hand. So Zhang was trying to work a single choke, which can work out. You know what I'm saying? It can cause somebody to go through some discomfort. And, for a while, it worked until Carla wanted to release the wrist, which she had a hold on, and go up there and try to remove that choke. And that was her detriment. And Weili immediately went to a full choke. And it's nothing that Carla Esparza could have done except go to sleep. Tap or sleep. You know what I'm saying? Tap or sleep. And she chose to tap. She lost her title. Zhang Weili becomes the third woman in the strawweight division to become 2-time women's strawweight world champion, which is crazy. My only thing is, I want to know if Valentina Shevchenko, who is the current 125-pound champion, strawweight is 115 pounds, 125-pound champion, I wonder if she's ever going to think about coming down to 115 pounds. Can she even do that right now? Because it'll be a good contest between her and Zhang Weili for her to potentially become a champ. Like you had people to come down. You know what I'm saying? Like T.J. Dillashaw that just came. He attempted to come down and face Henry Cejudo and got knocked the fuck out. You know what I'm saying? There's people that decide to come down. You know what I'm saying? Frankie Edgar last night. This man used to compete high as 155, I believe. And he was fighting at 135 at his age. And he got starched once again. I hope he never returns to the cage. He's taking too much damage, bro. Caps, what's good? What's good? Yeah, Danny said UFC got the number 1 and 2 spot when it comes to MSG. Yeah, what's good? What's good? What's going on, Toby? So let's talk about the rivals, man. This is the greatest part about combat sports, when you have two elite fighters, because they're elite. I remember the times when I was over doing the Glory Days prior, and I had to see a lot of these fighters over there, because I did a lot of time overseas, man. You know, I got to see some of these fighters like Rampage, man, and freaking Hindu, Nagara brothers, Sakuraba, Aoki, even the Gracies, Alistair Overeem, Sammy Shields. Man, all these guys, man, Japan was just incredible right then. Like, seriously, when I was in Japan, I said, man, I would stay over here in Japan just for the fighting alone, just for the freaking culture and everything else that goes along with it, because their schools over there is not to be played with. Like, their professors really take shit serious. Like, you ain't coming in there with your phone, you ain't setting that shit up while you train, and none of that shit. It ain't none of that going on. It's just too many areas over there to learn how to settle in and become serious and become one if you're trying to be a martial artist. That's if it's just recreational, just learning it, or to compete. Adesanya and Alex Pereira did not disappoint yesterday. A lot of people leading up to this fight, they were saying that, you know, these fights was pretty much close. And at one point in time, you know, Adesanya did have his moment, just like he had early round yesterday. He had him hurt at the end of the first round. He hit him with a 1-2. You know what I'm saying? Had him standing there, damn near asleep. But he recovered. It wasn't enough. You know, these are 4-ounce gloves. The gloves that they used to using over in kickboxing, it's probably 8-ounce gloves, I believe, 8 to 10 ounce. Somebody correct me if you know. But they was bigger gloves than the UFC gloves, of course. And Alex Pereira had 2 wins over Adesanya, one resulting in a knockout. So for Adesanya, he felt that him being champion, he's worked his way up the middleweight ladder. He earned it the right way. Nothing was given to him. Nothing was given to him. A person like myself thought Adesanya would face the same result he faced last night, earlier, before he got the title. I thought the fighter who would be able to do it was Robert Whittaker, and that didn't happen. So when he came in here with the fighter who was his adversary in kickboxing, right? I was pretty much looking at it like he has experience. He still has the experience over Alex Pereira in the UFC to have the advantage in mixed martial arts. Like Pereira coming over from kickboxing, and he has some MMA fights, but not on the level of the UFC. What I like once again about the UFC, right? If you are legit, and if there's any way they can build a storyline, a legit storyline, they will allow that person to come over, especially if it's dealing with a champion. I mean, if the storyline is right and the competitor is certified and confirmed, they will bring him over there. So this is exactly what happened with freaking Adesanya. They brought Adesanya's adversary over to the UFC, y'all. They brought the man over to the UFC. He only had 3 fights in the UFC, and they gave him a title shot, y'all. They gave this man a title shot, bro. Who does that? Adesanya was going on his 25th fight. You know what I'm saying? His MMA record, man, vice freaking Pereira. I think Pereira was going on his 8th, right? You know what I'm saying? He was going on his 8th. So he goes in there and knocks out Strickland. Strickland wasn't no one special. He's a legitimate fighter. You know, he'll kick the average man's ass, you know, and the average MMA fighter ass. You know what I'm saying? He can fight. But he went in there and knocked the dude out clearly. Knocked him out, made easy work. So the UFC does what it does. They took this man who was a rival to freaking Adesanya, gave him some pretty decent names. Like, you just don't get this in boxing. You just don't get the opponents that Alex Pereira had leading up to Adesanya's freaking championship berth with the names of Andreas Machiliadis. I don't even know how to freaking pronounce that. Who was that dude? Bruno Silva, y'all. Look, Bruno Silva. Look. Andreas was 13-4. Bruno was 22-6. Now, of course, I always tell y'all that multiple losses in MMA don't matter. It happens. And then they gave him Sean Strickland, who was 25-3. Now, what we can take from that is that all 3 of those opponents had much more MMA experience than Pereira. After he knocked out 2 out of his last 3 opponents, granted, Strickland was his last opponent he knocked out in the first round. They give him Adesanya. He goes in there and almost get knocked out in the first round with Adesanya. And then they had the exchanges back and forth, you know, punch kick combinations. In the second round, not too much takedowns and stuff like that. But, you know, you can call it for what it is. You can call it for what it is. So it gets to the third round, and this was kind of like the back and forth verbal sparring on you know, whether Alex Pereira had jiu-jitsu game or not, whether Adesanya was finally going to try to take him down and show that he had improved, you know, as a mixed martial artist, being he was a champion. He had more wrinkles to his game. So finally in the third round, Adesanya gets into the clinch, gets a takedown. I said, okay, let's see how Alex Pereira works this shit. Let's see how good his ground game. He didn't do too much of nothing, which concerns me. I was like, God damn, he has to know he's behind in this fight. So pretty much Adesanya had his way with him in the third round when he took him down. It wasn't really no threat from no submissions or anything. At one point in time, he was in a turtle position, and he wasn't even really doing anything to get out of the position. Like, he wasn't even moving. It looked like he didn't have a sense of urgency. You never know with these guys. They can set traps for you. They can act like they're actually a turtle, but it can be a scorpion. Goddamn, they're just waiting to strike. I'm telling you, like, these guys, man, they're very, very smart, man. But when you start taking punches and you don't return, then it becomes like, okay, you really don't know what's going on. He really can't do anything. So when the fourth round came around, I felt that Izzy still did enough to get up out of there. Like, I still felt he did enough to put away the round, even though there was some good exchanges in there and everything. I was like, you know, Adesanya, he's feeling confident about himself. You know, you seen him work the question mark kick a couple of times. Seeing him still, you know, close distance and go in for the takedown. Obviously, he was making adjustments off what was getting him to that point. He was having success through the fight. I was saying, cool. I would have thought there would be more difficult exchanges for Adesanya off the cage. But with all the movement he was doing back and forth, stifling freaking Pereira, I thought he would have much more success off the cage. Using those long legs. You know what I'm saying? Using some of those kicks of his. Both of these fighters was landing inside, outside, low calf kicks. You know what I'm saying? Every now and then kick to the body. But in the 5th round, man, it was deja vu all over again. Seeing his countryman Kamaru Usman get head kicked, put to sleep in the 5th round in a fight he was clearly winning. And then to see Adesanya clearly winning this fight against Alex Pereira, who's the less experienced striker out of the two, to be able to finally, because I know Glover was telling him like, hey, in Portuguese, hey, knock this motherfucker out, man. Come on, man. This is what we got. Them Brazilians, they have a different mentality, bro. They fight to the end, man. They believe fighting all the way to the death, fighting to the end. It ain't over till it's over. You know what I'm saying? You either knock me out, I'm knocking you out, but we're not gonna play this game. So Pereira came out there, seemed like with a sense of urgency. He was still stalking Adesanya. I thought Adesanya's cardio looked great. You know what I'm saying? I thought he still had enough to get him to the final bell. But he kept backing up against the cage, man, and that's a no-no against a striker like that. The reason why I say that, if you look in the early rounds, he was trying to land that knee. Because sometimes when fighters go up against the cage, they try to slingshot themselves, or, they try to throw combinations off the cage, because their fighters looking at it like, okay, you don't have nowhere to go. You think I'm bullshitting? Just look at the Tyron Woodley fight against Darren Till. That was one of his signature trademarks. He would back up against the cage. Till is facing him. Till feels that, okay, this is the opportune time to basically try to level change and go in, or to try to throw a punch, because he has nowhere to go. You know what I'm saying? It's the cage behind him. And Tyron Woodley would throw that overhand right, and he ended up clipping Darren Till. But anyway, back to the fight. Israel Adesanya backed up against the cage, man, and Pereira caught him with a right hand. And then he caught him with that crushing ass left, which I don't know why Adesanya attempted to pull a Canelo and roll with the shot. Like, you should have maintained that defensive discipline that you had early in the fight. But for you to take that left hand on the chin strap, maybe he was tired, more fatigued than I thought. But when he got hit with that, oh my God. He was rattled. His shit was off, man. He couldn't recover. He was so fucked up and dizzy. Dizzy. He was so dizzy that he couldn't even hold his hands up to defend himself. Now we got a problem. Now the referee is paying close attention, and he's seeing all these shots landing by Pereira, and Izzy's not defending him. Not only is he not defending, he tried to hold on, but he didn't even have enough coherency to know where to hold on, to have enough. He was so loopy, he couldn't lock up. He was just standing there with his hands down like, damn, where am I? He was discombobulated, confused. You know what I'm saying? And Pereira kept on landing those hard shots, man. And the referee called a halt. And Adesanya loses again via knockout to this guy. And even though they're talking about a rematch right now, that's going to hunt him for a while, I'm not going to lie. He can sit up there and bow to the crowd and act like it don't bother him. It has to bother him, man. Because when it comes to the Three Kings, you have these Africans who took a picture, which I was commending them. I was saying, man, this is some good shit, man. You got Kamaru Usman, you got Israel Adesanya, and then you got Francis Ngannou. You know what I'm saying? You have Francis Ngannou, you have the Three Kings. Look, you can't call racism over here. None of that shit. MMA, you can't do that, man. You have black champions. You have the clear path to fight the best competition in the UFC. It ain't no politics like we see over here. It's clear. Look, it can't be politics. That's why I'm telling you all why I fuck with MMA. I'm going to give you a perfect example, bro. John Jones. John Jones has been one of the biggest fuck ups, but one of the highest rated talents in the sport, right? For him to fuck up the way he did and come back to the UFC and get the championship fight, fuck up again, come back to man, come on, bro. MMA fans are different. You know what I'm saying? Look at Khabib Nurmagomedov. His brawl with Team McGregor. Look at that. Look how he went through that process where the fans was really saying, okay, I understand where you're coming from, but you Russian. You know what I'm saying? Depending on where you fight, but you Russian though. You know, depending on where you're coming from, but you Russian. And they embraced him as a champ, man. People would say it was a little bit over the top with Dana White finding him like $500,000, from what I heard. And McGregor was fined like 50 grand. But ultimately, he still was able to fight. He still was able to fight. They didn't strip the man of the title. They still allow him to fight, bro. Y'all boxing heads need to understand there's nothing wrong with watching MMA. You just have to pay more attention than you do when you're looking at it. Because it's not just, left and right. Left and right boxing discipline. It's not just stand-up game. You know what I'm saying? You able to use from head to toe. Even your head. You can use your head in the clinch. You just can't use it as a type of strike. You know what I'm saying? You can use it for positioning, which is very, very uncomfortable in itself, especially in the clinch. Or if you're on the ground, or if you're slamming your opponent, if you know how to do it correctly, like Randy Couture, he used to love picking up his opponents and driving his head into the chin when they hit the canvas. You can use it, you just can't headbutt them. You know what I'm saying? You can't sit there in the clinch and then you do a Victor Ortiz on Floyd Mayweather. So it is a non-limb type of freaking art, but it's an 8. When you look at the scripture and the laws and the rules and everything, it's only an 8 limb. But the 9th limb does come into effect if you use it correctly. But anyway, MMA community is a different type of community, believe it or not. People can continue to think that you got a bunch of rednecks coming from the bar. No, man, did you see how many of their fighters that they had in attendance? It's always like that. Always. It's always like that. They're fighters, man. I know people gonna say, well, when you look at it, boxing, depending on what promotion you with now. UFC, big fights, they always have their fighters in attendance, just like goddamn lunch tickets, man. Just like food vouchers. Here. Go ahead. You good. Yeah. And they always be in the same area. Why can't boxing do that? But anyway, man, shout out to Alex Pereira. It was a very, very good fight. And unfortunately, we only have one king remaining. We have one king remaining, y'all. That one king, man, is Francis Ngannou, bro. Shout out to the 3 kings. I wasn't mad at you. Y'all did something unfreaking believable. For real. Y'all did something unbelievable. Y'all was able to reign as world champions on the highest level in the premier promotion at the same damn time, man. So now we go over to Francis Ngannou. As you're looking at the thumbnail, you see 2 X's. That means Kamaru Usman, who just earned a little part, a cameo in Wakanda. Black Panther. And then you look at Izzy Adesanya, who just lost his title yesterday. And now you have Francis Ngannou, who's at 17-3. An interesting part about Ngannou, right, is that for a minute, he was the big dog. Like, they was talking about this man hits harder than Mike Tyson. He has the most power of any boxer. His punching power is just crazy. Shout out Coco in the building, Jermaine in the building. He gets to a point where he knocks out Alistair Overeem, right? Like, the punch he knocked out Alistair Overeem it did almost seem like Alistair was almost borderline being decapitated. Alistair is no longer juiced up like he was when I seen him overseas. Like he was a phenom to watch. Like, you know, when he was over there, but he was a mere. I mean, I'm talking about nowhere close to the over here, right? But he did get the win over Brock Lesnar. You know, he did have his highlight moments. But for Alistair Overeem, he was an up and coming heavyweight fighter who people was like saying he was gonna be the next best thing. Like, this is it right here. This guy's strong. He's freaking big. He has power. He's the Mike Tyson of MMA. He ran into Stipe Miocic, who can box, who used his defense, a boxing defense. Because Francis, being a bit naive, he tried to come out there and just drop bombs after bombs after bombs after bombs. And Stipe had that boxing background. He was able to slip underneath those punches and keep very good distance and land some very effective strikes on Francis Ngannou to win a unanimous decision. Look, in true fashion, 6 months later, the UFC put him in there with Derek Lewis, another guy who considered to be the heaviest hitter. That is one of the most boringest fights I ever seen in the heavyweight division. People start to second guess Francis Ngannou and say, man, maybe he's not what we thought. Maybe he's not, because that Derek Lewis fight was one of the top 2 boringest fights in the heavyweight division in the UFC. I'm serious. That shit was crazy. None of these guys wanted to take a risk and get hit. So then he fights Curtis Blades, right? A wrestler, right? He gets a win. He knocks him out. I mean, really fucks him up. Cain Velasquez, shout out to Cain. Cain is the fighter who was just released on bond, finding out that a babysitter was molesting his freaking child, and he tried to kill him. I don't blame him, man, at all. He had a win over Cain Velasquez. It wasn't the same Cain Velasquez that was champion, but he was a little past his prime, and Francis picked up a win over a good name. Then you had JDS, Junior Dos Santos. He got down, punched his ass out in round 1. And then Jorginho Rosenstruck, round 1 via punches. Now he got the momentum. Real talk. Now he has the momentum, bro. Now he has the freaking momentum. No doubt about it. Francis Ngannou has made his mark. Now he has the momentum. He goes in there against Stipe Miocic. You know what I'm saying? Who is pretty much at this time established as one of the best heavyweights in the game. Him and Daniel Cormier had like a little semi-rivalry going on where he was able to revenge that first fight that they had when, just got lazy out of the clinch, and DC caught him with a right hook on the inside. Dropped him, ground and pound just a little bit. Referee stopped the fight because he was asleep. You know what I'm saying? He couldn't safely defend himself. So Stipe goes in there against Nganu, and he gets stopped. You know what I'm saying? So Nganu finally becomes heavyweight champion. This was back in March of last year. And then he faced Ciryl Gane. Ciryl Gane, his record came in there just a little bit different than what you used to seeing, especially in the heavyweight division of a mixed martial art. This man was 10-0, man, boxing. One part of that is because they fight on a more frequent basis sometime. You're talking about a single promotion that has a single belt system and has its own fighters. Not every fight in boxing is going to be underneath the same promotion. You know what I'm saying? Not every fight in boxing is going to be beneath the same promotion. In the UFC and Bellator, they don't cross-thread promotions for a fight. Every fight you get is in-house fighters, so to speak. If you want to use that language, the UFC, their fighters are signed to the UFC. You know what I'm saying? Bellator. All their fighters are beneath Bellator. They ain't from any other organization like that. Now, they might get a one-fight deal to come over there and fight to see if they can get signed to Bellator or whatever. There's some fighters that come from neighboring organizations to the UFC, but You get what I'm saying. MMA is not set up or structured like that. So he faced Ciryl Gane, man. And to me, it was a pretty decent fight. Ciryl Gane seemed like he was a little Derek Lewis-itis, scared to exchange a little bit. But the fight was pretty decent, man. And I think Ciryl Gane had too much respect for Nganu. But he defended his title. Now, that was earlier this year in January. Now we wait to see if Jon Jones is going to return in heavyweight. You know what I'm saying? That's where we at with it. The reason why I have Jon Jones' picture up here in the thumbnail is because he's going on 3 years, bro. He's going on 3 years out the cage, man. We saw him because he stayed in Mexico. What is it, Albuquerque? I think if he's still training up there, I don't know if he moved or whatever. But, he got into a situation with the law enforcement. He's just been having a problem with drugs, pets, whatever. And he let it be known. That's who I am, this, that, and the other. But we're waiting on his return, man. Seriously, we're waiting on Jon Jones' return. Because what the people are believing is that in the future, it may be a potential fight between Jon Jones and Francis Ngannou. But in order for Jon Jones to even get close, we're talking about a man who's considered to be undefeated. Real talk. Check this out. His last fight was right before the pandemic, February 2020, y'all. February of 2020. And that was against Dominique Reyes. Yes, the same Dominique Reyes that was knocked out last night. Look, Dominique Reyes' best performance was versus Jon Jones, bro. He's never been the same since that fight. So, we don't know when he's going to come back. February 2020 was his last fight in the light heavyweight division. And he retired and said he was going to come back in the heavyweight division. Now, he's 35 years old right now. Some people will say, okay, he's had enough time to preserve his body. He hasn't been taking any damage. And he's been training. He's gained weight now. Jon Jones has gained weight. Jon Jones is one of the most dangerous strikers in mixed martial arts. He's never been defeated. His only loss is his disqualification. You get some naysayers that sit up here and say, he got a blemish on his record. He did lose. Not so much, man. He was beating the shit out of Matt Hamill. He was beating the shit out of Matt Hamill to the point where the UFC was going through constant rule changes, man. Just sporadic rule changes to make the sport a safer place and all that shit. And you gotta think about it. This commissioner went to an ice-breaking competition where he felt that the 12-6 elbow was too dangerous for it to be a authorized strike in competition. So when they put this rule in place, just like they have put many rules in place for a downed opponent, Jon Jones was beating the goddamn shit out of Matt Hamill, and he landed some 12-6 elbows. And Steve Mazzagatti stopped the fight. And Matt Hamill was bloodied all to be down. And he even went on record to say, I wasn't going to win that fight. But the fight was stopped. Jon Jones thinking he won the fight. And that wasn't the case. They DQ'd him. Yes, sir. So when you see that one on his record, well, they ruled a no contest, but you know what I'm saying? I think they ruled the DQ, if I'm not mistaken. They ruled the DQ, which states Matt Hamill is the winner, which rules that he is the winner. All right. So moving forward, Matt Hamill, I don't think he's out there bragging that he's the Lone Ranger who put an L on Jon Jones' record. He was just happy to get up out of there alive. Now coming full circle, the MMA community is waiting for Jon Jones to return. They feel like, okay, 3 years, god damn. I heard he was going to come back and And in 2023, supposedly, we'll see, man. We will see what John Jones has in store for anybody. You know what I'm saying? John Jones is 26-1, man. 35 years old right now. 6'4". You wanna hear something crazy? Cause we know some people love talking about dimensions and shit. Boxer's dimension, with a height of 5'10", arm reach 71 inches, hair black, skin tone brown, medium sized fingernails, smooth colored skin. You know what I'm saying? John Jones' reach is 84.5, dog. John Jones' reach is 84.5, man. Can you imagine that shit on your heavyweight? 44.5. Let's see what the chat's talking about, man. I don't know what he died from, and I'm not going to make any assumptions, bro. He didn't have 7 MMA fights in the UFC. I said he had 3 fights. He had 3 MMA fights in the UFC. He did not have a total of 7 fights in the UFC. He had 3 out, 3 in, and that was his freaking. Oh no, he had 3. That was his 4th fight. That was Alex Pereira's 4th fight in the UFC. So he has some type of experience. He didn't have a lot, but he had 3 fights before he stepped in there with Israel Adesanya. That was his 4th fight at the UFC. I think the hardest part about that loss for Izzy last night is the fact that he lost to a guy that bested him before and was just getting his feet wet. Yeah. I mean, you can say he was getting his feet wet in MMA, but, you know, he's 7-1 right now. So he had the experience, so to speak, in combat sports. He was a prior kickboxer that came over to mixed martial arts. Now, all he could have did is not taken the fight. And then, hey, Jermaine, we wouldn't even be having this conversation. But check this out, Jermaine. Check this out. You have to look at it that you have people in boxing saying that David Morrell is ready for David Benavidez. Like, you have certain boxers who are cut to have that minimal fights that can face the better competition. Now, will we see a fighter like, let's say, Keyshawn Davis, have the amount of fights that he has and they put him in there with a champion? We don't see that often. We don't see fighters going in there and single-digit wins and facing somebody who's already been champion, defended their title several times, never been beat. It doesn't happen like that in freaking boxing. But UFC, Bellator, they show, hey, we operate off a different system. Is it supposed to be more well-rounded fighter of the two? Supposed to, and actually stay in the course. Like, y'all have to understand, these are 5-minute rounds, man. You can get the best of a fighter, your opponent, in the first half of the round, but then it's 5 minutes, bro. I was trying to educate somebody on this when it came to Carissa Shields. I said, you have to understand one thing. You're looking at her amateur pedigree, her Olympic pedigree rather, and then you're looking at her boxing pedigree. And you're thinking she should have a real nice time at that. But you have to factor in, she's a fighter that knows how to box, but she don't know how to box when it comes to mixed martial arts. Nor do she know how to control the cage for 5 freaking minutes. That's a long time when you coming from a structure in women's boxing that's 2 minutes per round. It's 2 minutes per round, shawty. It ain't 5 minutes walking around, moving around the cage, trying to set up strikes and trying to, stick to an offensive strategy, using tactics, trying to set your opponent up. And in the last fight, when I was covering her last fight in the cage, it gets down to being patient. And she wasn't patient enough. She tried to go in with the 4-ounce gloves and land that right hand, overly committed. Her opponent was already deep in, locked in, hands locked together on the freaking hips, takedown. And the rest is what it is. She played around with her. Reggie on deck was good. Boxing Conversations. I kept saying the whole fight, Izzy need to get off the cage. He did. I don't know what brought him to that, man. I don't know why Izzy was hanging up against the cage like he was tired or something. I don't know, man. Maybe he had a good poker face. Maybe the pressure, because freaking Alex was pressuring him throughout the entire fight. It was disappointing how the fight ended. It does bother him. He lost to a guy he's supposed to better than a more well-rounded. Coco in the building. What's good? Rumble fought from heavyweight to welterweight, back up to light heavyweight. Izzy talked about fighting John Jones before. Can you imagine that? John Jones would have done to him. I mean, he wanted to be great, man. So he wanted to fight John Jones at light heavyweight. And you have to look at it that he was trying to be champ like DC, like Conor McGregor, Manny Nunez. You know what I'm saying? He wanted to be champ like Henry Cejudo. So he moved up to fight Juan Blachowicz, who was absolutely a light heavyweight. And he found out how that weight is. With John Jones, he would have found somebody that's pretty much structured like himself, that possesses a whole lot more striking skills and weapons than he does. I mean, just a whole overall smoother practitioner in the cage, man. And his cage IQ, in my opinion, far exceeds that of Israel Adesanya. But I can't knock out Adesanya for trying to go up there. That would have been a super fight. I told people, Adesanya versus John Jones, erase all this shit right here. It would have been one of the biggest fights ever in UFC history. Period. Hands down. It would have been the biggest fight. Two black fighters are not the same in mixed martial arts as two black fighters that they proclaim over here in boxing. Remember I told you that. It doesn't even come close. You would have got two black fighters like that. They fight all the time in mixed martial arts. They fight all the time. Black fighters fight other black fighters. They fight all the time. Nobody even bat an eye that this shit is something that won't sell and all this other shit. They fight all the time over there. No problem whatsoever. None of that's why I try to explain to people, like, if you just stay buckled in to what boxing can't do, then come on, go over to MMA and watch it for a little bit and see that you still have fights going on beneath a different promotion, a different overall combat sport. And you have MMA, you have Muay Thai, you have black fighting blacks all the time. And people's not over here talking about, oh, they don't sell. They don't sell. They seem to sell in mixed martial arts. They seem to sell in mixed martial arts. Shit, I'll tell you that. Whether it's freaking black, Brazilian, Turklian, African, Mexican, Dexican, Shexican, it don't freaking matter. All this shit boxing talking about, oh man, two black fighters don't sell. We're dealing with humans here. The humans, some of them humans, they visit, they go to MMA fights and they see everything that's going on, but yet they go to a boxing fight and they be having these conversations. They say, why this fight can't happen? Why that fight? Why this person can't fight that? Oh, because you know they want to be black fighter versus Mexican fighter and black fighter versus black fighter. Man, get out of here with that. They say, oh, that's rubbish. That shit ain't true. What about MMA? See, MMA is different. Got a different community. Yeah, man, it's crazy, bro. I don't think it's a good idea for John Jones to return to heavyweight after being out for 3 years. A lot of John Jones' career has had him coming back with hiatuses. None longer than 3 years, but he had his hiatus from being suspended. You know what I'm saying? Being out because of personal problems and drugs and shit like that. That's what he does, man. John Jones' DNA is different. Like their pedigree is unbelievable. You know, him and his brothers are very athletic, gifted athletes, man. They may be able to pull off stuff that the average cannot do. John Jones arguably lost to Reyes, but if you say he won, then yeah, Jones should be like 28-0. I say he won straight off the decision, but I've been on record as saying I thought Dominic Reyes won 3 rounds to 2. That's what I said. That's what I was on record as saying. I said about Matt Hamill, at this point in time, he should have 0 losses. He should be 27-0. He should be 27-0. Jones is going to have a massive skill advantage over Nganu, so it makes the fight interesting. Nganu has improved too now. You know what I'm saying? I don't think he has the cardio, but, you know, John Jones coming up from light heavyweight, putting on all this muscle. We don't know what's holding up. We don't know what's holding up John Jones. Seriously, we don't know. But for those of you cats that's in here that follow mixed martial arts, man, appreciate, you know, I'm like I said before, I'm going to try to stay consistent with covering this MMA. In the meanwhile, right now, I've been looking at the BJJ competition. Been some real good bouts going on, but it's a bit different than anything when it comes to freaking boxing and MMA. The reason being is that it's a grappling. You know what I'm saying? It's according to what you like, no gi or gi. I like more so no gi. Much more challenging, so to speak, than grabbing on somebody, you know, gi and working for submissions. Both of the skill sets now, whether it's gi or no gi, it still requires you to learn that shit. It ain't no damn shadow boxing. It ain't no sort of thing as shadow grappling. You ain't gonna just get on the mat and be faking like you grabbing somebody. It's a full contact sport, body to body contact, and practice everything. You always gotta practice with somebody, always. That's the only way, man. You're gonna have body to body contact and all that shit, man. And some people don't like that. You know, with boxing, you can go over there and learn how to throw a punch on the bag and stuff like that. But how you gonna learn how to choke? How you gonna learn how to defend against certain positions and stuff like that? You gotta actually go there and put in mat time. That's all. Shout out to Mr. Gumbo in the building. What's good, man? Salute WCS in the chat, Mr. Gumbo, aka the Coroner. What's good with it, bro? You know what I'm saying? Look forward to seeing you next time when you're in Omaha, man. You know, people saying some good things about you. You know what I'm saying? They know you over there, Gumbo. Appreciate Mr. Gumbo for the $2 super chat, my brother. Real talk. Appreciate you pulling up. UFC was lit last night. Hell yeah, it was lit, man. Got that Madison Square Garden was bumping, dog. That's the way it should be, man. The Garden was bumping, man. You just have to understand, like, it's different. That community is different over there, man. Some of y'all cats just can't get mesmerized by thinking that you have to stay in a dysfunctional relationship. You have a choice, bro. You can watch boxing and you can watch the MMA. Not just the UFC and you know, you got Bellator, you got PFL, EFC, you got all these organizations. You know, if you want to pay a membership, you know, Flow Grappling out there, you got to pay a membership though. You know what I'm saying? A lot of y'all have ESPN memberships and the Zone memberships. But I always tell you, man, are you really smarter than the next person if you just talk boxing all the time? Like, I can talk MMA, you know what I'm saying? I can talk boxing, grappling, whatever the case may be. But I appreciate the ones who tuned in to talk about the card. The Three Kings, man, it is what it is. We have one remaining, you know? And let me get this off. Like, I saw Black Panther, and it was good to see Kamaru Usman in there because I followed him so long. I followed him way back in the day when he was saying he was only 30%. Like, he was boring as shit, man. He didn't have no personality. He said, oh, that was only 30%. That was only 30%. I was like, man, you ain't doing shit. You know what I'm saying? He was just using his wrestling and all that. And then all of a sudden, he turned the corner, man, in his career. And he beat Tyrone Woodley, and he went on a damn winning streak, defending the title before he was knocked out by Leon Edwards. I really, truly didn't think nobody would beat him. But what I did like was him getting a role in a movie like that. I like that he was able to do something I don't see a lot of boxers. Like, yeah, we saw Andre Ward and Creed. Yeah. Now we have, Benavidez in the up and coming one. We saw Gabe Rosado over there. We saw Tony Bellew. You know what I'm saying? It'd be good if more fighters were so called more fighters was getting roles. Kamaru Usman earned a acting role in a movie that wasn't boxing. It was fighting in there, but it wasn't boxing. Boxers tend to get boxing roles. You feel me? They tend to get boxing roles. Antonio Tarver, you know what I'm saying? Roy Jones Jr., Max Kellerman, the commentator. You know what I'm saying? They get movies and boxing roles. Now, I'm not saying that's all the time, but when have you seen them outside a movie role like that? Mr. Gumbo lighting it up. God damn. With a half 100. With a half 100 on deck. Shout out to Mr. Gumbo, man. Hey, one love to you, Gumbo. Much appreciated, brother. Gumbo with the $50 super chat. Truly appreciate that, brother. Real talk. I'm Mr. Omaha and Mr. Lafayette. I can off the porch without making a call to my ankle nanny. Y'all already know what hoe he talking about. You already know the hoe he talking about. You know what I'm saying? He said, I'm Mr. Omaha and Mr. Lafayette. He's pretty much saying he can step off the porch without making a phone call to get permission. You know what I'm saying? He can walk off the porch without permission. If he want to walk down to the local store, he can. And get him something to drink and come back home. You know what I'm saying? Eat some wings and motherfucker just chill, he can. If he want to go see a female that's 2 blocks over, he can. If you want to go down there to the local joint and play some pool, he can. He don't have to call nobody. But some people do. Some people do. And they feel that calling people out, being disrespectful, that's cool. Well, Gumbo, cool cat, man. Older cat like myself, cool dude. But we unfortunately, have to go through a process where people just wanna be petty about them supporting other channels. And we grown, bro. Support who the hell I wanna support. Just like everybody over here in the chat, man. I appreciate y'all for pulling up. I appreciate the ones who support the channel. Gumbo, man, you know what I'm saying? You know what it is already. Thanks for the dang super chat. $50 on deck, man. WCS. Make sure y'all hit the like button, man. Continue to support the channel. Continue to check for the notifications. And the channel is growing, for the ones who support the channel. That's all I got to say about that. Will people if they spend less time trying to talk about how many subs I got and how many people tuned in, they'll be okay. That's too much stress. But Gumbo, continue to do your thing, man. Support who the hell you want to support. And who gives a fuck about the ones who up here screenshotting to see who's in the chat and then get mad? Look, you can't give me that much power. Don't do it. Don't give me that much power. But shout out to the ones who won yesterday, man. Dustin Poirier, shout out to you, bro. Shout out to Carla Esparza. You know what I'm saying? For coming 2-time world champion, but losing her title to Zhang Weili. You 2-time women champion. You in history books, girl. You were in the history books, Carla. You just got married not too long ago. You're in the history books. Shout out to Zhang Weili, man. 2-time women's strawweight champion. 115 pounds. Come on, bro. That's history right there. And that's another one who pretty much was on the same track as freaking Alex Pereira. She didn't have that many fights in the UFC, and she got a title shot. Real talk. She didn't have that many fights in the UFC. She got a title shot. And then the main event, man, you know what it is, Adesanya. You either come back and rematch and get your title, or you just have went through the on the journey as so many other mixed martial artists, man. You'll still have a job. You'll still get fights. But whenever they show Alex Pereira, they always gonna show you being knocked out in kickboxing and you being stopped in mixed martial arts. It's never going anywhere now. It's never going anywhere. You need to understand that. And to the Brazilian Alex Pereira, man, salute to you. Congrats, man, on your championship. Seriously, salute on you coming in here and making that shit happen, man. What's going on, ETB? How you feel, man? He said, man, sad news about Rumble. He was my favorite fighter for a minute. Him and John Jones. Yeah, man. Rumble Johnson was a nice dude, bro. You know, at the beginning of the live, I showed the interview of me and John Jones. I mean, not me and John Jones. Me and Rumble Johnson in Florida. You know what I'm saying? He was working with David Feldman and the guys down there at BKFC. And, you know, he was one of the talent searchers. I wouldn't say talent search, but he was helping David Feldman. Him and some other mixed martial artists was helping him select talent because they had an open workout at this gym. And, you know, that's what Lorenzo Hunt was. You know, Lorenzo Hunt, he's now champ of BKFC. His rise to stardom is crazy. You know what I'm saying? And Rumble Johnson was there. I think, you know, at that time they selected Lorenzo Hunt to be one of the next up fighters to get a contract with the BKFC. And the rest is history. Dudes is a mega star now. He's been in there with some of the biggest names. And Rumble Johnson was there the night he selected Lorenzo Hunt, man. Yes, sir. But, man, y'all know what it is, man. I'm out this joint, man. Continue to support the channel. It's going to grow regardless of what people say. Man, y'all continue to hit the like button on your way out. Mr. Gumbo, man, one love to your brother. Thanks for dropping that donations. You know what I'm saying? Salute to you. Man, y'all hold it down. Turn up and tune in to World Combat Sports. I'm out.